You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the show. It's our privilege to be here with you. I'm excited for our momentum. I'm excited for our community. I see people jumping in on social media, supporting what we're doing and then what our guests are doing. I really like when we bring guests in that connect with themselves outside of the shows and continue to further our reach, right? Not just our reach at a podcast, but our reach of actually living life with purpose and creating a space where we empower others to do the same. And when we believe in ourselves, the ripple effect is others can believe in themselves. And maybe we may not even see the end of the ripple, but just knowing we played a small part in that is such a gratifying part of why we do what we do. So I want to thank all of you for being part of the community. Thank you for being here each and every week. It's truly an honor to serve you and to show up with you. And this week, I'm excited to bring to you a powerhouse of purpose, resilience, and reinvention. This week's guest, Jerrod McConnell, is a certified personal fitness trainer, award-winning bodybuilder, author, and speaker who's rewriting the rules of aging. After a health crisis in her mid-40s, Jerrod walked away from a high-powered corporate career to pursue a mission, simply to help others age with strength, grace, and my favorite part of this, unapologetic boldness. Through her platform, Ignite Fitness, Jerrod empowers people, especially those 45 and older, to embrace their vitality, challenge social norms, and live fully in every season of life. Her message is clear. It's never too late to become the strongest version of yourself. So before we get to this week's interview with Jerrod McConnell, please get over, like, subscribe, share on your favorite platforms. Give us some comments. Simple as saying, great episode or good job, I really enjoyed this. Anything like that can help us move the algorithms in our favor, help us reach more people, and reach our goal of being the most impactful podcast in the world. So once that's done, sit back and enjoy this week's conversation with Jerrod McConnell. First responders, your strength, speed, and safety matter. That's why Veritas Athletic Performance delivers remote training built just for you. Led by Coach Matt Erdman, a 14-year law enforcement veteran and certified coach, our programs focus on movement, not just muscle, to boost performance and cut injury risk. Through the Train Heroic app, your training is personalized, monitored, and adapted wherever you are. Train smarter, serve stronger, and protect what matters most. Veritas Athletic Performance, your readiness is our mission. Jerrod, my newest friend, welcome to the On Purpose Podcast. How are you today?
Well, thank you. I feel very welcome. I'm enjoying it already. So thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Like I said off the air, I just want to thank you for the courage you have in sharing your story, the courage you have in living a life that's, you're putting it out there so people can see what we can learn from one another. And without sharing our stories, without finding our personal courage to do that, nobody can learn about us, right? Nobody can learn the lessons we're sharing. So I want to thank you for doing that.
Well, I think it's a valuable thing because what I often think about these days is how much wisdom there is in our senior population, and yet there is so much disconnect and misunderstanding between the younger generation and the older generation when actually we have so much that we can share and help out with that, just sharing general wisdom. I'll share my wisdom, you help me with technology and
And I love that, right? Because you're absolutely right. The younger generation will learn from the older generation, but it's up to us
yeah,
to share it, right? They shouldn't have to come pry it out of us.
right.
And I come across a lot of people as we age that tend to diminish the value of their own story.
Right. I think it splits. Some people just can't stop talking about it because they really want to share, and other people that are just like, oh, nobody's going to be interested in my little
Mm.
story. Nobody cares. It depends on kind of who you surround yourself with and what kind of feedback you're getting. But I think it's worth it to fight against the resistance to keep people quiet and
Mm.
to get people more talking about what's going on with them.
Yeah, I love it, but I'm gonna be honest with you, Janet. Like, I want to hear your story because you're living life. You're challenging societal norms. You're doing things. If you're coming to me to tell me about all your medical ailments, I don't want to hear those stories.
No,
You know,
of course not.
right?
I know it's kind of a funny thing because when you become a senior citizen, one thing that happens, even when you're healthy, you feel fine, but all of a sudden there's this whole protocol of all these, prescribed doctor's appointments you need to go on, and you're like, oh, this is why very old people talk about the string of doctor appointments they have, and it's the highlight of their week. I went to my dentist and I went dermatologist and my enterologist is like, oh my gosh, this is when it starts.
Ah, they gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Janet. I came across something that I don't remember even where I saw it in researching that I just loved, and that is that your mission is to help others age with strength, grace, and my favorite part, unapologetic boldness.
Yeah, we claim it. We deserve it. We have to be that way because, I mean, of all times in your life, this is your last hurrah, the last trimester of your life, and you're going to stay silent. I
Mm.
mean, as a little girl, I was told that little girls were to be seen and not heard. And as you can see, that didn't take. I'm not shutting up.
Oh, I love it. Thank goodness for that. But before we get to that stuff, you're a fitness person, Janet. You just don't come in and go to the heavy lift right away. I got to warm you up. Are you ready for this warm up?
I am ready.
All right, here we go. If you get one word to describe you, what's your word?
Relentless.
Ooh, so good. That's a good one. All right. Favorite quote?
Oh, there's so many to choose from. Oh, that's a really good one because several things come to mind, like Mary Oliver's poem on wild geese and the uh, the Man in the Arena speech, Teddy Roosevelt, and I've got all these big, grand, but it's not a quote. It's something to memorize
Yeah.
and carry in your heart. Favorite quote, man. I suppose one of the ones I really like, I think it's Albert Einstein that said, nothing happens until something moves.
Mm, yeah. The importance of creating momentum.
Right. Yes, momentum, it is a magical force. And it is not just you making it. You're the one with the gas pedal and the impetus to do have an idea that you follow up on that you start working on without any idea of where it's going to go, if it's going to be successful, if it's a mistake. And you just kind of go one step at a time. But there's a point where you kind of stop moving for a minute and notice that the momentum is magically pulling you forward. Where is that force coming from? I've been thinking about that a lot lately, that this idea that there's something about the universe. What is that thing about the universe? You take a step and the universe will step in to support you.
Hmm.
I think that's talking about momentum.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
100% agree. All right.
Yeah.
If you get a theme song for your life, what's your song?
Oh, the Bon Jovi refrain, it's my life, it's now or never. I ain't gonna live forever. I just want to live while I'm alive.
Oh, so good. So good. Look at you. All right. Favorite book?
Boy, I'm a bookworm. Let's see. Probably the one I haven't read yet. I'm steeped in self-help all the time, so I have forced myself to go back to reading nonfiction and fiction around a certain topic. And I'm going on a vacation in a few weeks to the panhandle of Alaska. And so I bought a book called Passage to Juneau. And it's a story about this young man who joins this fishing fleet, this group of fishermen back at the turn of the century, last century, and his adventures in the inside passage there through the Panhandle.
That's
So that's the favorite one I haven't read yet.
Oh, that sounds good. I hope your journey is much calmer than his is, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there's others. I mean, I've got one right here that I've read a couple times. It's a thick one, but it's Peter Attia's Outlive,
Hmm.
The Science and Art of Longevity. And it is so well written. And it does a deep dive into all the areas of healthy nutrition, sleep hygiene, of course, resistance training, rucking, all that. And then the last chapter of all things is about emotional health because he had an episode in his life which kind of propelled him into becoming a longevity doctor, where he had to go into a deep cave
Mm,
and learn about what was going on up here. And it was so well written. And I didn't expect that from a doctor. I
yeah.
expected all the physical stuff. And this was like a whole other fuzzy area. In fact, his publisher, I heard him tell this, his publisher didn't want him to include it in the book. He wanted it to be the first chapter. And they go, oh, absolutely not. This will tank. You can't use it. So he finally compromised and they allowed him to use it as his last chapter. So it's in there.
Huh. Yeah, you're the second person that's mentioned that book in the last few weeks. I definitely got to get it.
Yeah, it's thick. You've got to kind of go, you got to pace yourself. But because it's not a story so much, it's more, facts and data. But Peter Attia, he breaks it down. There's rare times in the book where he goes over my head, where it's like, okay, listen, Mr. Nerd, like it's too much, but most of the time it really is written for the layperson.
All right. One more warm up question, Janet. You get to have dinner with one person. Who would it be and what would you want to ask them?
It would probably be two people, um, Richard Feynman and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Okay.
And I would ask questions about the cosmos and whether or not why we haven't figured out how to time travel, and why is it that warp speed hasn't been discovered yet, even though it was in science fiction, because we always create things from science fiction. All the stuff in Star Trek and Star Wars is coming true. Okay, warp speed. That's my own personal thing. I'm a real sci-fi science fanatic. My father was a rocket scientist, so I was kind of raised in a different kind of environment.
Yeah, and that's so you definitely want to travel with some speed.
Yes. Well, I think that it would help to solve the problems that we're spending, wanting to explore the universe and even the solar system. And I'm not crazy excited about the idea of living on Mars or anything like that, but exploration for sure. Yeah.
All right, Janet, you feeling warmed up?
Yes.
All right. I wanted to start with you went through a midlife health crisis. It was kind of a turning point moment for you. What was it about that moment that let you know you had to make changes?
Yeah, that it was really painful at the time, but looking back now from 30, 40, almost, well, 35 years ago, it was such a lucky thing to have happen when it did. So here's what I mean. So my crisis was I was deeply involved in my career. I was like 46 years old, and I really was enjoying my career. I was successful. I was getting promoted, giving more and more responsibilities, and I was still pretty young. I mean, I was a healthy child. I grew up healthy, so I had a long fuse, into adult life before. Like some people break down before that.
Hmm.
It took me a little longer to break down, but I had a breakdown because I took my health for granted. Having always been healthy, I never had to diet or worry about losing weight or anything. I was just one of those people who just kind of had genetic advantage, I guess.
Right.
That comes to an end
Mm.
in your 40s. if you don't take care of this classic car that we're living in. Everybody lives in a classic car. You can't get another one. You got to
Yeah.
live in this one. And I was becoming overweight. I was really having a lot of job stress and jet lag and terrible food choices and too much rich food, alcohol, on and on and on. I could go on and on. But I wound up at my doctor's office for my annual physical, and I knew that I probably could lose, 25 pounds. But so could everybody else. I really was, rationalizing everybody's a little overweight. That was all I thought was wrong with me. But found out that I had high blood pressure. You can't feel that. You
Hmm.
don't know you have it. That's why it's important to check it. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, and borderline obese, according to the metrics.
Yeah.
My doctor, who'd known me for quite a while, because back in those days, you see the same person over a long span of time. So you actually have a relationship. He's just like, what is going on? I don't know what's going on with you, Janet, but you are on your way to early heart disease.
Mm.
And this is serious, and we need to make some changes. But of course, okay, I sat there in shock, like someone had punched me in the stomach. But here's the thing, of course, with doctors of that day. What we're going to do about it is not eat right, sleep right, exercise. It's here's a stack of prescriptions.
Mm.
All the prescriptions that would treat the symptoms that I clearly had. And I just, like a bolt of lightning hit me. I just thought, this is wrong. I'm 46. I'm not ancient. I was healthy as a child. I started like my life kind of passed before my eyes, like some people say, when they almost die, but for me, this was a critical juncture. And I just refused to take, I said, listen, all of a sudden I just was, wait, hold on, don't do this. Give me 6 months. He goes, are you bargaining with me?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I am. And he goes, well, I know you pretty well. All right. He goes, let's see what you can do. I don't think there's much you can do about it, because diet, I mean, yeah, you can lose some weight, but you're still going to have your cholesterol and your whatever. So he was not, I could tell he was skeptical,
Right.
but he decided that you give her a chance. So he goes, let's make the appointment right now, 6 months from now, and you better show up because I know where you live. So so I left the office, no prescriptions, still in the same, physical state, feeling really scared. Went out to my car and had a hysterical cry, and then went into the office to for the afternoon. And I went to my boss and I said, "Hey, I'm really at wit's end here. I don't want to slow down on my work schedule or my travel schedule, but I'm having a bit of a health crisis." And I told her what happened, and she said, "Well, Janet, I have a trainer. Why don't you just call him? He's really good. He won't hurt you, and he's fun, and he knows what he's doing. Just give him a try. At least do that." So I called him and made my first. I had never worked with a trainer before. I'd never even gone to the gym. I had never worked out in a gym. The most I ever did was like hiking. I was kind of physically active, swimming, stuff like that, but not regularly, obviously. So I signed up with this trainer, and he happened to be a bodybuilding trainer and resistance training,
Yeah.
powerlifting, kind of all in one. And so I did like him. It was really fun. He made it like it was very motivating because right away I started to get stronger because I'm pretty robust, just a little out of whack. And um, I remember that the problem was, of course, that it was 5 o'clock in the morning. That was the hardest thing. He was a good trainer, so he was full, So 5 o'clock in the morning, 3 days a week is all I could get. So that's what I did. But the good thing about that is it was before my work day. Anybody who could ask anything of me was sleeping.
Yeah.
So nothing got in my way. And so I started out and loved it. And 6 months went by. Now mind you, I didn't change my diet at all. I was still eating junk food. I was still eating late at night. Um, I liked healthy food, but I definitely strayed.
Right.
And yeah, and so, but that 3 days a week for 6 months without missing, I managed to lose 30 pounds just from that.
What did the doctor
So
say when you went back?
the doctor, I went back and did the whole labs again. And he goes, well, I got to hand it to you. You're in the safe range for everything. The cholesterol's a little high, but you're below the threshold. So
Mm.
I'm going to let it go. But you had better not quit. And so he goes, I've never seen this happen before. Like to him, it was a head scratcher that exercise would make a difference, So
Right. Isn't that crazy that the people in
yeah.
charge of our health would think exercise is not a critical component of health?
Right. Well, Peter Attia talks about that in this Outlive book about the old guard and the way things have always. This doctor was performing the way he should. This was his training. This is what he knew he should do. And he was just following his own training. So it's changing now. We're getting a more
I hope
functional.
so.
Yeah, it's changing slowly. But yeah. So anyway, then I was sort of like off the hook, but I was still a little fluffy,
Mm.
but I was way better. And then I went back to the gym and thought, wow, I'm not going to quit. I'll just keep doing this because I really like it. But then I thought, you don't have a goal now. This was a goal and you achieved it. So what are you going to do now? And I didn't know. And then these two ladies came into the gym a couple of weeks later, and they were training at the same time as me with another trainer, just kind of in the same space. And they were ripped.
Mm.
They just carved muscles. I see your pup back there.
That's Otis.
I have a cat sleeping in here, but he's old. He's old and bored, so he's not going to care. But anyway, they just looked so amazing. I couldn't get over, and they looked like they were maybe 4 or 5 years younger than me. But I just was so impressed. I thought, wow, I wonder they must be so strong. I just equated it with they had just been doing it longer or whatever. And then I noticed they were lifting the same weights I was lifting. They were curling the same dumbbells. They were doing the same lat pull downs, the same bar squats, everything. They were just as strong as me. And they looked like that. And I couldn't get my mind wrapped around that. And I asked my trainer, why did they look like that? And I look like this, and we're doing the same thing. And he goes, oh, Janet. He goes, let me explain. Those are bodybuilding competitors and they are getting ready for a show in 5 weeks. So they have to do everything very strategically.
Mm.
So they have to lift strategically, they have to eat strategically. I go, whoa, 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 what's this eat strategically? Because I knew that was the thing I wasn't doing. And he goes, oh, it's really hard. Like, you wouldn't want to know what they're eating. It's boring, it's hard. You won't like it. And most people quit. And I think as a trainer now, I know what he was doing was he didn't want me to fail, feel bad, give up, and then lose a great client. He didn't want to lose me. So he was kind of like careful.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if you don't give me the diet, then I'm going to find someone who will. So he did. And 1 year later, I was on my first bodybuilding competition stage at 48.
Oh, that's so good. What I love about that story, Janet, is you didn't see them, compare them, and say you can't do it. You saw them and were like, wait, I can do what they're doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I do that a lot where I started a YouTube channel. I thought if these yutzes can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I think I was just having this conversation earlier. If anybody can do something, then somebody else can do it as well.
Oh yeah. You just have to be willing to pay the price.
Mm.
People want things, but there's this thing called compliance. Compliance is expensive in time and effort and grit, not money necessarily, but all the other things. Money is easy. The other things, the human spirit and the gumption to do stuff. So I think that anything is possible if you're willing to pay the price, and the price is compliance
What do
to
you think?
go to
Yeah.
follow that. Yeah,
What do you think about this, Janet? Though, like, if there's something you really want to do, you're gonna pay the price either way, right? Because if I do it, I'm gonna pay the price and sacrifice and work now.
sure,
If I choose not to, I'm gonna pay the price of regret later.
sure. There's a price either way, but it's much easier in the short term for people to coast.
Mm.
I was just talking to a client today. I've been training her for 10 years. And she goes, well, I was really bad this weekend. I really have to cut back on the chips and the dip. It's
Yeah.
4th of July weekend. And I said, you've been saying that for 10 years. I don't think it's the chips and the dip. I think it's more than that. And, it's the strawberry shortcake, it's the wine, it's it's all the other things that she said she ate, and it's not even just a holiday blowout, which everybody should enjoy a little bit of that, but
Mm.
it's the day in and day out of the clipped edges where pretty soon you don't recognize the plan that you started out with.
Yeah. No, that's so true. It's easy to kind of downplay some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So talk to me about something else that you've mentioned, and that's shattering the status quo of aging.
Oh, yeah.
What does that mean to you?
That means to me that first off, we have a status quo idea in our society. It's both spoken and unspoken about what it is to be old,
Mm.
what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels. So people will say, when I get to be 85, just shoot me. I don't ever want to be like that. And it's like, wow, my 85 is going to look a lot different than yours, and I want to be there for it. So, in other words, people are more afraid of getting old than they are of actually dying. They don't want to be old. Why is that?
Mm.
What is it that they're seeing? Well, look around. You look at your relatives ahead of you in the chain, and you see how your grandparents and your parents are, debilitated or, going downhill, and you think, well, that's terrible. I want to be at my prime and then just die. So, there's that. And so my belief is I want to shatter the status quo of what society thinks aging is. Being an example, preaching from a stage, I like to speak, I speak all over the country about this idea that healthy longevity is within reach. And it starts with those simple actions, those simple decisions, and then it momentum, it opens up more. You start reaching for more and more, and you gather speed, and then you find your stride, and pretty soon, I mean, at 46, I was pretty debilitated and was out of breath and just, weak. And now, I mean, in less than a year, I mean, in only about, what is it, 10 or 9 or 10 months, I'm going to be 70. And I feel more alive than I ever have. And I don't know why that isn't possible for everyone if you just decide.
What do you think that first step is for somebody that's trying to decide? Maybe they just can't get the momentum going. What's a good first step? Your opinion?
I think it's doing some thinking and maybe some journaling or some introspection before starting. And the question I would ask myself is, what, how do I want to say this? How am I being complicit in creating the condition I say I don't want?
Mm.
How am I being complicit in creating the conditions I say I don't want? And so decide what is the pain point? Is it that maybe you don't want to be a bodybuilder on stage? Okay, that's not a crime. but maybe you want to be alive to see your grandchildren reach adulthood. Maybe you want to be able to see your legacy unfold that you've worked for your whole life. Maybe you put off some really amazing plans for retirement and now you want to be strong enough to be able to do them, like go to Antarctica and, hike up the glaciers and, skydive or whatever crazy things people do when they're 60, 70, 80, and you hit those big landmarks. So decide what is it that you're doing right now that you love doing that you don't want to give up. And old age has the possibility of taking that away from you and train for that. So if it's picking up your grandchildren off the floor and not throwing your back out, if it's being able to, hike the John Muir Trail, is it being able to um, be able to carry your luggage and put it in the overhead rack because you love traveling? I mean, it's the sky's the limit on what it is that you don't want to give up. And you don't have to if you train for it.
And
So I think first it's up here.
yeah, and I love what you said, asking yourself how you're complicit in what you don't want, because it's so easy to blame other people or the circumstances or, oh, this is just what life gave me, but there's no power in that.
Right, right. It's a victim mindset, scarcity mindset. And people will say, well, I just have bad genetics. Well, I will tell you this. It's kind of like a house, like anybody who is in real estate or home building or any of that ilk knows that all houses start out with a blueprint, and the blueprint dictates how the house will look, right? When it's newly made. But then that family moves in and lives there for 10 years and then they move out. And then another family moves in and they want to put a room over the garage and they want to make the carport, enclose the carport or add on to the side or put up a deck or all these things that you can do to a house. Change orders, you know. You take the original blueprint and you do change orders and you add and you improve and you repair. You do all these things to keep this house alive for 100 years or more. And it takes a new family to move in sometimes up
Mm.
here to decide I have some change orders. I do have genetics, and that does dictate the color of my eyes and the height, my height, and my bone structure, and maybe a few little anomalous weaknesses that our family seems to have, that kind of thing. But that's it. You can do a lot, and that's what epigenetics is all about.
Hmm.
You can change your cells. Your mitochondria are waiting to build something new, and you just have to put the right conditions in place.
And they're changed through resistance,
Yes,
right? They're not changed through conformity. They're not changed through doing the same thing over and over.
right. Yeah, the thing I've been fascinated, another book I could have mentioned earlier, I've been really ruminating on, and it was written by a man in his 40s. So he was really kind of writing for the middle generation, not the older generation, but it's called The Comfort Crisis.
Mm.
And I'm blanking on his name. I don't have the book here with me. I have it on my bedside stand. But it is about the idea that as modern citizens of the world, we are really addicted to comfort. We seek it. We try to find the easiest, take the escalator, not the stairs, take the elevator, We always, why do we have to be reminded to use the stairs? Um, you know, a good example is I drive this little sports car, and when you get up out of it, it is like getting up off of the ground. And my husband's always like, he has a big SUV, which you just basically slide out of. And whenever I drive him somewhere, to get his car or whatever, and he's just like, oh, how do you get out of this car? It's not comfortable. And I think, it's kind of one of the reasons I keep it because it makes my legs strong to have that repetitive motion climbing up in and out every day. But the comfort crisis is something I'm thinking a lot about, and you touched on that. And that is that it's important, especially as we get older, because we get very complacent. We know what we like. By the time you're my age, this, not that, this, not that.
Mm.
We've got it down. We've tried everything and we know what we don't like, what we do like. And so we tend to just say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I already know I don't like that. It's important to find a couple of things that you do on a regular basis that are uncomfortable. They put you out of your comfort zone. They make you sweat. It makes you sort of like grit your teeth. You have to force yourself because you're just like, I'd rather just sit on the couch.
Mm.
But to do it, because there's this thing that happens in your brain that gets stronger every time you do that. And that is, I think it's the amygdala, if I'm not mistaken, where it, or the, yes, I think so, where it just actually reinforces that pathway and it keeps the brain youthful. I mean, we're always talking about, one of the ways to avoid dementia is doing Sudoku and stuff like that. No, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. The real way is to do something risky, something exciting, something you've never done before, something that is adventurous, where you have to learn a new skill. That will change, that will put dementia at bay because your brain is like, I've got this to do over here. I've got to figure this out. And it becomes fascinated with that. And all those new connections are
Hmm.
created in the brain. And then there's no time for, dementia.
And that's why it's so important for me when I talk to family members that are getting older or just seniors I meet is asking what are their dreams. Like, what are you still dreaming about? What are we still getting up for every day? What are, like you said, what are we sacrificing? Maybe a healthier food choice versus a convenient food choice. What's the sacrifice today for long term? What are we still playing for? So how do we keep people that are moving to that senior age dreaming?
Yeah, I think it's people like you and I asking that question. That I heard someone say the other day, what do you want to want?
Mm.
And I like that because sometimes, when you say, what do you want? What do you want? It's like, I don't know, as a blank, but what do you want to want? Then you're once removed from it and you can look at it a little more objectively and say, well, what I really want is to be able to travel to all seven continents and see, great sights in the world before I die.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Or
What do I want to want? I love that.
what do I want to want? What is it that I've always denied myself, for whatever reason, told myself, maybe your family, your parents told you this is not for you.
Mhm.
I remember when I was a little kid and I wanted to take horseback riding lessons, and they're absolutely not. Well, I think it was expensive. I was probably a money decision, but at the same time, I really wanted that. And I didn't have the power to make it happen as a child.
Right.
You know, it's like, what do you want to want? Maybe go back and look at your childhood and what are the unfulfilled dreams that you had? I mean, I still think about, I don't know if you saw this. This was like over a year ago, but when William Shatner, the
Hmm.
the Star Trek dude, he got to go into space in Jeff Bezos's rocket, and I think he was in one of the first ones that had citizens, not astronauts, in it, and he had always wanted to go to space, always, because he was Mr. Starship Captain in the story, and it was something and here he was at age 93. I think he's 94 now, so he was probably 92 when he went. He didn't give up on that. It was what he wanted to want,
Yeah,
and
I think
couldn't
you're.
hardly talk about it when he came down. He was speechless.
Mm, I think you're right on that. Right, is that we can't give up on our wants. We don't just
Yeah.
reach a magical age where it's over unless we tell ourselves it's over.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And I think if you're in your life right now where there's things that you enjoy, things that you love, you're looking forward to something in the near future that you're going to do, whether it's a family reunion or a wedding or whatever, or a trip or graduation or something where you're really looking forward to it. And what if you weren't well enough to go? And how are you going to guarantee that in the future you will be well enough and have the energy and the desire and the ability to do it? I mean, why lose your agency? I mean, I can only think about my dad who was so angry at age 93 when we had to take his car keys away. So angry, because he knew what that meant. And I think everybody does. Everybody knows those little symbols and tokens of freedom and agency that slowly leave our grasp. It's sad, it's terrifying. Well, maybe you don't have to.
Yeah, you
I
gotta
mean, why
fight
not
back, right?
go? Yeah, why not just go full speed and die peacefully in your sleep at 105? I don't know. It's like,
Hmm. Yeah. What do you think are some overlooked elements of longevity and vitality outside of like food and fitness that are often overlooked, but we should be paying attention to?
yeah, I think that it's the mindset, kind of what we've been talking about. Um, in my business, in my training business, I work with seniors. So they're all kind of in the same 25-year age span from each other. And I get to see the whole spectrum. People who are there because their doctor has told them to go, because they have early stage Parkinson's and need to learn to keep their balance and keep their muscles strong, have good proprioception so that they can live a little more productively, all the way to people who, like one of my clients who was 82. Speaking of seven continents, she was 82 and she wasn't big and strong. She was this little tiny, fragile woman with old injuries that didn't get treated correctly. I mean, she was kind of a broken toy, but she was alive in her mind. She could walk, and climb stairs, but that was about it. She had already been to five of the seven continents. Her daughter and she traveled a lot together. It was a thing that they did. So she got to see a lot. And she still had not been to Australia or Antarctica. And so she decided first to go to Australia. And she said, when I go to Australia, I am going to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef at 82. I was like, okay. She went off and got certified at 82 to scuba dive. So she got that. But it really bothered her that she had to drag those heavy tanks on the deck of the ship. And some young guys would always have to come and help her. And it just bugged her. She wanted to do it herself. Because once you get in the water, you're buoyant. And
Right.
so it's not a problem. She could swim and she could do all the stuff. She knew all the safety protocol. But that just irked her. And so she knew me and her daughter was a friend of mine. And so she hired me. She said, okay, you've got 8 months. I'm going to Australia. Get me there. I need to be able to do this. And so we practiced all the skills that she would need. We dragged a lot of sandbags and
Ah,
and got her cardio up a little bit higher, like her VO2 max. We improved that a little bit. Had to go slow because she was very old and had not up until that point done a lot toward body strength. Um, but she was really smart. She was very intellectual. So, she knew what was going on and she knew she needed to do it. And she did it.
I love
But
that.
yeah, I have pictures of her swimming in the blue water with her mask and her wetsuit and everything. So she came home just so excited. She went on a side trip to see the glowworms in New Zealand and we had to paddle into caves. And I mean, she's in her 80s. Who wouldn't want to spend their 80s doing something like that? And she came home, she wanted to go to Antarctica. And so, okay, what's it going to involve? Well, she had to get in and out of the flotation launch that goes from the cruise ship to the shore. You have to swing your leg over and slide in and crawling down the little rickety ladder and then walking sticks or ski poles.
Hmm.
on the slippery ice and the stability to walk in slush and ice and mud. So we trained her for that, and she went and did that. It was like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And well, I guess I just don't. I love when people don't give up on life, right? And nobody's body's gonna be perfect. We're all gonna have nicks and bumps and bruises and some medical conditions. Some people have more
yeah,
than others, but there's nothing that stops us from thinking of what we can do, but us
yeah.
usually.
And the outward appearance becomes so much less important, which is a gift of age. It's like, hey, this is it. Love, whatever. I'm gonna be myself now. I get to be myself. And it's what's the developing on the inside that is the treasure. And the being able to have that wisdom and use it for yourself, not just dispensing it to others, but to use it on yourself. What is something that you want to do? And you ask a good question because I don't know the answer for how to goad, prod, inspire, because you can watch podcasts all day long and you can read inspirational quotes and books all day long. But if you don't pull the pin on that and, do it, then it doesn't matter. None of that learning. You can only learn to some degree, and then you've got to actually do something with it.
Yeah, there's definitely no magical answer, but I do think, like you said earlier, at least having the conversations to where people maybe stop and go, wait, I do have a choice in this. I have a choice what I do today.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
maybe they're at a point in time where walking to the mailbox is better than what they had been doing the day before. Do that.
Yeah, right. Well, and when you get older, there are setbacks sometimes. We're a little more susceptible to illness or a fall, just a little bit more. And it helps to be in shape and to have good balance and to have a strong constitution that you can maintain. But a year and a half ago, I had a knee replacement. I had an old injury from high school that had just deteriorated. And it wasn't something that, peptides or red light therapy was going to fix. It had to be replaced. It was amazing how it was painful and it was difficult in the first few weeks. But my doctor, my physical therapist, everybody was like, I can't believe you're already driving a car and you're back at work. But the reason, quite frankly, is because I was already healthy and strong going into it. So it was a bump in the road rather than bottoming out and just being down for the count.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't get to that place we want to be tomorrow unless we start today.
Yeah, yeah. And having that health that you eat right, feed your body like you love it, and say things to yourself that you would say comfortably say to a
Mm,
5-year-old. So no down things, no, oh, you're so ugly,
right.
you're so fat, anything. Women are especially, I think men do it too, but women are more forthright about admitting it. They get down on themselves, and it's like, no, no, that, yes, you've got some stuff to work with here, but it's not done. So get busy.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think everybody does it. I think maybe what separates us a little bit is the media really reinforces it for
Mhm.
females.
Yeah, yeah. Even older movie stars will say, "Oh, thank goodness I can just let my hair down." They don't have to compete anymore to be the young ingenue, and they're not glued to social media and what everybody else is doing that I should be doing. There's not so much FOMO. And so that's great. But yeah, there is a standard out there, and I think people that have always traded on their looks, both men and women, really, really good looking men, heroes in the movies, and women who are, the cover of Vogue or whatever. if that's your currency, then it's really hard when you get older if you have not built up what's in here. Your internal fortitude and your intellect and your character and your spirit. So yeah.
That's so true, Jen. Before we wrap up, talk to me about your new launch of your YouTube channel. Tell us about that.
It was just kind of a fun thing. I mean, I wanted well, one of the impetus for this is I love public speaking. And my coach told me, he said, you really need more of a social media presence. I wasn't spending any time on it, posting regularly. So I started out with, LinkedIn and Facebook and stuff. And then one day I just saw a YouTube video about starting a YouTube channel and what it takes. And it's not super, it's easy. It's one of those things that's where they say easy to learn, difficult to master.
Hmm.
So it's one of those things. But I just thought, well, and then I saw a bunch of kind of boneheaded YouTubers and thought, they don't even speak in complete sentences and they've got 1 million followers. What? You know, I could do this. And so I just decided to start and it's amazing. It's so much fun because I'm getting to connect with people all over the world. I get responses from people in New Zealand and France and Germany and Canada and everywhere that say, "Oh, thank goodness I found you because you're making sense." And it's mostly people 50 and older, but I even had a young lady message me and she said, "You are so perfect for my mom." I was like, "Okay, send her over."
And are you doing fitness videos and stuff on the channel?
I don't do like, here's how you exercise because that's everybody's doing that. I talk more, it's more educational with stories. And so I do deep dives into nutrition and sleep, healthy sleep, and, strategies for that, supplements, exercise, resistance training, the importance of it, and also stretching and VO2 max. So all the areas that really support. I just finished one on creatine because it's such a hot topic right now, and it used to be a controversial supplement, but they're finding out now that it actually supports cognitive clarity and cognitive health neurologically. So it's becoming kind of a darling, and so I did one on that. So anyway, I a month ago, all of a sudden, I just went viral and got monetized, and now I'm off and running, and I'm working on creating a book and a course that I can offer there. But I've got almost 3,000 subscribers just in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, nice. What's the name of the channel?
It's called Healthy Longevity for Life.
Okay, very nice.
Aging Strong for Life. I think I changed it. Aging Strong for Life. But I'll be sure to give you the link and you can probably put it in your show notes or something.
Absolutely. We can put it in there, my friend. We'll try to get you 3,002 followers.
Yeah, there you go. And then I also have a book. It's a couple of years old, but it's Elements of Aging Well, My Journey So Far, and it goes into detail, has my story in it, and which I told a little bit of it today, and just talks about the general things about resilience and about creating boundaries as you get older, and so some of the other areas of aging well that aren't just doing squats.
Yeah, no, that's super good. Is that on Amazon? Where do you want them to go for
Yes.
that?
Yeah, Amazon, Elements of Aging Well. I can provide you the link, the Amazon link for that too.
Awesome. Janet, it's been so awesome to have you on the show and to get to hear your story. And I do have one final question for you.
Uh-oh.
You ready? In the hardest chapter of your story, your life story, what would the version of you today whisper to that version of you back then?
Oh, you ask good questions. I would whisper in her ear, you can't see the whole way. but you can see one step at a time, like a flashlight. You can see one step at a time. And even though you can't see the whole way, you can get there anyway, one step at a time.
So powerful, and that ties right back to the very beginning about creating momentum.
Yeah.
Janet, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and welcome to our community, my friend.
Thank you so much, Jerrod. I appreciate it so much. This is a really great community.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.